Terrific, and I'm live. Okay, this is a quick post talking about the nature of the struggle that we as a human race confront right now. The narrative has gone that owing to the situation with our environment, particularly our carbon resources, and the way in which we have abused our environment, our way of life is going to have to change. Now, rather than being honest and transparent about where we're going, we're being led kind of in a very zigzag route so that we don't recognize what the end point of the game is going to be. But you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that what they're doing in Australia and Canada and in certain European countries, particularly Italy, indicates that we are headed now for a world in which we are all going to be very carefully monitored. And why are we going to be monitored? We're going to be monitored so that we as individuals can be controlled. Now, why do we need to be controlled? It's because the powers that be, whoever they are wanting to know what we think, what we believe, the kind of behaviors we'd like to get up to decide who they can live with, who they should enable, and who they can't live with, and who they should disable. This is very, very worrying because it has all kinds of consequences for our human and our civil liberties. And we've had the first brush with this on the vaccine mandates that they attempted to push on us around the world. All right. Now, it's important for people to understand that actually those who are leading us on this dance are way fewer than us. But there's a Buddhist saying which says that a person across purposes with themselves is certain to wind up in failure. The point is that the powers that be are incredibly united. They are in perfect lockstep, one with the other. We, on the other hand, are very focused on our personal wants, our personal tastes, and so on, which is perfectly right, because it's the essence of being a human being, is that you value your individuality. You don't want to be a cookie cut of the next person down the line. However, so long as we understand that we share a common purpose, there is absolutely no way in which we can be dragooned into something that we don't want. This is why I say that actually the battle we face is first and foremost a spiritual battle. Now, what do I mean by spiritual battle? What it means is that every one of our moral failings, every one of our double standards can and will be used and leveraged by these people who want to take a grip of your destiny and mine to divide us so that we can be ruled. There are a squillion examples of how we are divided so that we can be ruled. It is what we fear, it is what we pay attention to that is used to leverage the differences among us. I'll give you two examples. The situation, the crisis in Ukraine. What many people in Europe don't understand is that for years, we have all been raised, those of us who grew up in Europe, to think of Europe as the epicenter of the world. There's a part of me which has resonances with other parts of the world. As you can see, I'm a person of African origin. Now, on the one hand, that doesn't stop me being a human being. And on the other hand, it gives me an insight into how I need to behave as a human being. Do you know the population of Europe is roughly 745 million as a continent, 745 million. The population of Africa is 1.3 billion, give or take. Europe is half the size of Africa per capita by head of population. If you go to China, 1 in 5 of genus Homo sapiens is Chinese. They are the most populous nation in the world. Again, it doesn't matter the fact that there are more of them than there are of Africans, or that there are more Africans than there are of Europeans, so long as we bear in mind the prime principle that all life has worth, and not just worth, equal worth. And if at any point forces or powers encourage us to hold a differential tariff of worth for different lives, that is the way in which we are divided, so that they can have their merry way with you and with me. Now, the crisis in Ukraine led to a call for Brits to support Ukrainian refugees. People are being paid £350, I think it's per month, for a minimum of 6 months to house these refugees in their homes. Not a problem. The problem only arises when you realize that not everybody is treated in that way if they are going to be a refugee. We have it there. Right away, we have it there. Double standards. Secondly, the way in which the media has got a hold of this. I saw this really funny meme the other day, which said that perhaps Vladimir Putin deserves the Nobel Prize for Medicine on account of his activities in Ukraine, completely wiping out COVID. This is what we are giving our attention to. And while we're giving our attention to the crisis in Ukraine, in the United Kingdom, for example, there are 2 key pieces of legislation which are being slid under the carpet as I speak with you now: the policing bill and the human rights bill. Please do your own research and have a quick look at what the key issues around that are. Now, if we are in lockstep with each other, giving equal value and equal worth to the lives of people around the world, there is no way that we can be traduced. There is absolutely no chance, doesn't matter how many billions these people are worth, there is absolutely no chance we can be leveraged to fight each other, come into conflict with each other, so that by bribing one party, you can get them to fight the other. I'll give you another example. I wonder how many of you could point to a country called the Democratic Republic of Congo on the map. It's a huge country. I think it's got the River Congo is the second longest river in the world, as far as my research tells me. Crucially, why is Congo important to you? Well, ask yourself, is your cell phone important to you? Because there's a key ingredient that goes into the manufacturing of these handhelds and other computing equipment, which mostly comes out of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So please, it is easy for us in Europe to sit here and think, well, we're the epicenter of the universe, the epicenter of the world. Other places don't matter. The truth is, our standard of life, our standard of living is maintained by the resources that come from places we can't even point to on a map. Coltan is what you can't manufacture your mobile phone without. Now is the Congo important? Now is it important the conditions and economic circumstances of the people in that country? Because at the moment, Congo is in such difficulties that it is very easy for foreign powers to go in there, extract their coltan and get out. Cui bono, as the lawyers say. Who benefits? Those who need the coltan. Who suffers? Those who own the coltan. In fact, while I mentioned the Democratic Republic of Congo, it is possibly after South Africa, or even greater than South Africa, the world's most endowed nation in terms of natural resources. Now, don't tell me these places aren't important. It is what they have in their soil that sustains your standard of living, my standard of living. And if that is the case, then surely their lives in that country, their welfare has some value. But I don't think so. If you can't even point to a place on the map in the way, say, which most Brits can point to France, most Brits can point to America, if you can't point to a place on the map, its people tend to be less important in your life. So when it comes to these issues around double standards, it is these very double standards that those who want to corral us into fighting with each other want to amp up and leverage. This ridiculous thing that happened, most childish spectacle. I'm a grown man, you know. What happened at the Oscars was such a bizarre event. It's got the whole world talking, but you want to see the way in which the whole world is talking about it. All they're doing is invoking ridiculous ethnic, racial, and other stereotypes. And who's laughing? The person who's laughing is the person who wants to split America into two or more ethnic groups, wants to split Europe from the rest of the world as the people who are the great saviors, the arbiters of other people's destinies, and therefore perhaps more ignorant of the conditions of other people's lives. But the very same people who, while being ignorant of one group of people, are jumping at the chance to help those poor Ukrainians who are having to flee for their lives. So the ability to avoid this kind of hypocrisy, these kinds of double standards, is not even, it goes beyond intellectualism, because look, you and I both know what's right, but how often do we do it? What makes us do the right thing comes to a question of the state of your heart as a human being. That is a spiritual issue. And that is why, if we want to ascend or progress to the new way of being on this planet, we each need to change the center of our being from the mind that does the calculus of, what will benefit me? How do I gain the advantage in this situation? Who do I have to kind of produce to get what I need, and so on and so forth? That cunning reptilian thinking, which is all about fight or flee, survival or demise, until we can find the spiritual wherewithal to rise above that. Then those who want to control us all are absolutely going to win because they know they are 100% united in where they're going with this. So it's that simple. Simple, but also enormously difficult. I'm the first to acknowledge this. Even as I'm doing this broadcast, my head's doing the calculus. Ooh, can you say that to them? Ooh, can they handle hearing this? Ooh, what if it frightens them off, and so on and so forth? Those are all the functions of the intellectual mind, the reptilian mind, the logical mind. Whereas my heart tells me absolutely nailed on 100% that comfortable or uncomfortable, I need to share with you this basic truth, just as you need to share with me your basic truth. Just as I shouldn't try and mute your voice, nor should you try and mute mine. Because until we are able to raise our spiritual resonance above this egoic calculation of who's going to be top dog, whose life is worth more than the other, and so on and so forth, which, of course, we all know is completely wrong, which is why we deny it after the fact. Unless we are able to rise above that, these people will create the kind of world that they want, a world in which you and I will be hooked up to artificial intelligence. We will become transhumanized. We will lose a great deal of what we call our humanity, and with it, our sovereignty, with it, our freedom, with it, our ability to act as spiritual, fully spiritual human beings. So that's where it's at. We have to win this spiritual battle. Without winning that spiritual battle, those who want to manipulate the structures around us to control us are going to have their way. But we can do it. Thanks for listening.